Hello class, this is my video explaining to you perfect squares. As you can see, it says perfect squares here, and there are several perfect squares on this page. The perfect squares are in red. The numbers that multiply to create the perfect squares are in black. So if you have this Google slide to work on, if you look at the next screen, it says here's a list of the first 1,000 perfect squares. And if you clicked on that, it would actually open up a document for you where you could see the list of the first 1,000 perfect squares. If we scroll down here, you see 1, 4, 9, 16, on and on and on. And it goes for a long time, showing you the first 1,000 perfect squares and the numbers that multiply to make them. For example, the perfect square 47,961 is made by multiplying 219 times 219. The perfect square 121 is made by multiplying 11 times 11, etc. So hopefully you see that a perfect square is made by a number times itself. 11 times 11 gives you the perfect square of 121. 12 times 12 gives you the perfect square of 144, etc. So what we're going to look at is perfect squares and how they're shown. And they're shown, or if we're going to determine a perfect square, it's shown with this symbol called a square root symbol, which is also called a radical. And it is used to find perfect squares and square roots. In this activity, we will determine the perfect squares of various square roots and also show the multiplication expression that shows the numbers that multiply to create the perfect squares. So for example, imagine we wanted to determine the square root of 144. So we have to know what numbers times itself, or what number times itself would multiply to give us 144. So since 12 times 12 equals 144, we can say that the square root of 144 equals 12. We would show it like this. Square root of 144 equals 12 because 12 times 12 equals 144. So the perfect square 144 equals 12 when you take its square root, because 12 times 12 equals 144. Hopefully that makes sense. Now you will practice several that look just like this. So for example, you want to find out the square root of 36, the square root of 225, and the square root of 64. And you can use this list of perfect squares if you want. For example, if I wanted to know the square root of 36, I could go here and I could find, oh, there's 36. 6 times 6. 6 times 6 makes 36. I mean, you probably knew that already, but still, then you would type in this spot, 6 times 6 equals 36, because there's a reasoning behind it. 6 times 6 equals 36, so that's why the square root of 6 equals, square root of 36 equals 6. So square root of 36 equals 6 because 6 times 6 equals 36. What's the square root of 225? The square root of 225 is 15 because 15 times 15 equals 225. So square root of 225 equals 15 because 15 times 15 equals 225. All right, very good. Square root of 64. Maybe you already know. Maybe you already know that 64 is made by multiplying 8 times 8. So the square root of 64 is 8 because 8 times 8 equals 64. So I would go here to my document and I would type in square root of 64 equals 8 because 8 times 8 equals 64. And just a couple more to show you here. Square root of 121, square root of 400, square root of 1. We could go on. Square root of 1225, square root of 1849, square root of 16. Okay, so I'll do one more because I do want you to be able to do these on your own without me showing you all of them. So the square root of 1,225, if I have my list here, I got to scroll down to 1,225. It's 35 times 35. So the square root of 1,225 is 35 because 35 times 35 equals 1,225. Square root of 125 equals 35 because 35 times 35 equals 1,235. All right, so that is how you will do this activity. And you will also have to not only do the rest of these, but also complete 6 more of your own. Feel free to use the perfect square list that was shared on the second screen above, or if you didn't, click on it here. It is again. So if you click on it, you bring up that list, and then what you'll do is you'll create 6 of your own. There's a spot in here for you to type the different square roots you'd be looking for. So let's imagine that you said, well, we never talked about the square root of 1,936, which is 44. So you can go, I'm going to go with the square root of 1,936. Come into the box here. There's a spot for you to type. You can back away from the asterisks. 6 equals 44 because 44 times 44 equals 1,936. 36, not 35. Okay, so there you go. So that's the way that you will do those. I'm going to extend these boxes so you have a little bit more room. Let me do that on the next page too. So that will be your activity to create those perfect squares and solve the others. So if you have any questions, let me know.